Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Spoilers, the show where we take a movie and we review it as if you saw the movie with us. We make a wild assumption that you have seen this movie already, and therefore our discussion of this movie is going to go into spoiler territory, so you've been warned. If you haven't seen this movie, and by the way, we're talking about 22 Jump Street, if you haven't seen this movie yet, just add this video to your favorites list or whatever and come back to it later, because we're going to talk about it wide open. So like, as I already mentioned, we're talking about the new Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill, Ice Cube film, 22 Jump Street, the sequel. I am joined, first of all, sitting to my left, of course, is Alicia Malone.
What up, bro?
Beside her is Krisily Kennedy.
Wait, I have to officially get ready. 22.
Guns out, sun's out, guns out. Beside her, Christian Harloff.
I'd say something witty, but I'm sitting between three girls. I win.
And Miri Kristian.
22's got an extra digit.
It's
21,
so it's funny.
22,
guys,
so it's funnier. Sorry, I had to throw to the Ice Cube.
that was such a great thing that Ice Cube did for us at the beginning of our videos. I dug that. So anyway, okay. So let's go into it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the positives of the film. We're going to talk about some of the negatives. We're going to give our overall impressions. Then we're going to give it each a score out of 10. So, Miri, let's start with you. You saw 22 Jump Street.
I did.
Positives about the film.
Oh my God. I mean, I'll be here all day. There's so much to love about this movie. I think the thing I loved the most about this film was the bird's eye view take on the sequel. We know we're doing a sequel. We know sequels are often bigger and more expensive and cheesier and maybe not as good. So we're just going to make that the theme of the movie. And I thought that could have just nosedived and been horribly flat as a joke, but it worked really well. And I love the fact that they made that joke, that they succeeded at making that joke with the sequel. And of course, they have such great chemistry. So it's always fun to watch them together. And I think the fact that they focus now more, we know who they are. Now we're watching their relationship grow, which is really fun. I did the junket in New York last week, and that chemistry lives with those two guys. Like, they're bros in real life. So it just carried itself forth on screen. There's so much to love. I mean, I feel like I could talk all day. I liked the just the comedic tone of the film, that they went in a lot of different directions. They didn't just stick to one brand of comedy. There was slapstick. There was ironic comedy. They had some puns. They
had some really good callbacks as well.
They did like a whole mixed bag of comedy, and it all works out well. And God, there's so much. I love the not so much cameos, but the guest performances. I thought Rob Riggle was, hilarious as always.
Great in everything.
And Dave Franco has like one line, and he just delivers it. So it's just every
Queen
moment.
Latifah's spot in there.
She was so great, and the beats. Too funny. The beats of the film were really consistent, and I think that's a hard thing to pull off for any comedic film, but especially for a sequel. Like, it was beat after beat after beat of just great humor. So there's a lot to love with this movie. Definitely worth seeing.
That whole thing you're talking about, the chemistry between the two of them, I remember for the first film, for 21 Jump Street, we were at South by Southwest, and they were showing the film there. I can't remember if they were premiering it there or not. And we're standing around waiting for Channing and Jonah, and they show up in their bike cop outfits.
Yes, they did that at WonderCon, too.
Did they at WonderCon, too? That was great. Anyway, so Christian, you saw the film.
Yeah.
Your positives.
A lot as well, too. And mirroring a lot of the same sentiments that Miri had mentioned, was that their chemistry, yes, they're back and forth on how much fun they're having. But I thought Channing Tatum stole this movie with the comedy. Was
awesome in this.
Because this was a guy for a long time. That's the dancing guy who does this and that. He's not a great actor. What's he doing comedy for? And then he does 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
Boom. 22 Jump Street. He's so comfortable now doing this stuff. You would believe that he is just a comedic actor from everything that he does, the back and forth, the rhythms, the chemistry between him and Ice Cube and Jonah Hill, and Jonah Hill's back and forth. Again, the tone, which you had mentioned before, it's consistent. You get those big waves of comedy up top, and then you're like, oh, how are they going to follow this up? And then it goes slow a little bit, but then boom, it hits you again.
Yeah.
What I also thought was really well is, yes, they hit you over the head with the fact that this is the same movie. Literally, they
so
tell
funny.
you this is the same movie, and not in the way some people say, well, Hangover 2 was the same movie and that didn't do well, because Hangover 2 didn't let you know it was the same movie, plus it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
So when you
Touché.
have
Laughing makes you forgive a lot.
that's right, and because as long as I'm in on the joke with you,
Yeah.
and Okay, fine, you did that already, but you just did it. It's like if you see a stand-up comedian, you've seen him twice on stage, and he's done the same joke twice, but it's still funny. You still laugh at it.
Yep.
Even though you know it's coming, and some of the times, and that's what I liked about this one as well, is sometimes you think it's coming, and something happens just a little bit different. And I thought that the girl, forgive me, I'm not going to remember her name, who played the roommate, ultimately.
Jillian
Oh
Bell.
yeah, from Workaholics.
Jillian, I don't watch that
She's
show.
amazing.
Yeah, so I
She's
want to
super
watch
funny.
that show now because Jillian Bell, because that's what they do so well in this movie. They cast people who know how to hit strong with comedy.
Yeah, that was. And the funny thing too is that they almost get out ahead of it by saying this is the same movie, so they can't face that criticism. But ironically, I found that it really wasn't. Like the starting premise: two cops are going to go into school posing as younger. Okay, yeah, same premise, and then they did a lot unique in this film from the first one. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Krisily, you saw the film.
I did. I sat right behind this guy.
Yes.
I felt bad because I thought I was going to. It was like you couldn't take a sip of anything through the entire movie because whoever was in front of you was going to get sprayed.
Yeah.
Jillian
That
was
happened
one
in
of
my
my
screening, by the way.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, it was that. I cannot remember the last time I went to a comedy that was an actual comedy that I actually laughed through the entire movie. Jillian was a huge strong point for me because I
Yeah.
didn't know her as an actress. I hadn't seen her in anything else, and she nailed it. And it was an all-out bromance between the two of them. They're
Yeah.
so much fun to watch, and the part that when they talk about this is a sequel, not only do they make fun of sequels and tell you that we're not going to take this super seriously, but the conversation and the way that the script and the writing is just so quirky and perfectly done. There were so many moments in the film that you almost missed things because you were still laughing at the last thing that
Oh,
happened.
I have to see this movie again because
Yeah.
I know I missed a whole bunch of stuff.
Something
Yeah.
cool.
I just want to go for the end credits again. I could watch that.
So good.
The
I
end
just
credits were
wanna watch
so
that.
creative.
Amazing.
You know what they did well is they could tell. One of the main things I had an issue with Million Ways to Die in the West. It would be smart for a second, and then it was just fart and poop jokes for a lot of it. This one, it could play those really silly kind of dumb jokes, but then it got really smart humor, and it mixed it in such a nice blend that it just you really appreciate the comedy through and through.
Absolutely. Okay. Alicia, you saw it?
Yes, I did, and I feel so sorry for the guy 2 rows ahead of me because that happened with the girl in front of me.
See?
She took a sip of water and then she spat it right over the whole row. The poor guy in front of her got a
I was
lot.
good. I didn't do
I
it.
snorted a couple of
Yeah.
times. So funny, and I think Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they're genius when it
Yeah.
comes to this
They haven't
self-referential
missed yet.
comedy. Yeah, they're so good at this meta movie, and I think it's something that the Muppets Most Wanted tried to do,
Yeah.
but wasn't as successful at it. You're in on the joke, as Kristen said. You're part of the joke that, okay, sequels aren't always the best. And then the bromance. I mean, it develops the bromance between Jonah and Channing, and it brings in a new bro for Channing to have a man.
That was
with.
Dude,
great.
bro.
Those scenes are fantastic between those two. Jonah plays haughty so well, you know, when he has his shoes and he's doing the walk of shame. It's the best. I just
And
wanna
then
watch
they went
Friends
back to
all
it
day.
again, but he actually knows the other girls
Yeah.
doing the walk
Yeah.
of shame.
So good. And Channing is just adorable.
Yeah.
He's not the smartest character, but I love that moment when he's like, I'm your best nightmare. I'm your worst nightmare.
Yeah, that
So
was
funny.
lovable.
So it was just filled with so many great moments, and you mentioned the end credits. Fantastic. I thought
Yeah.
poked fun at franchises,
Genius.
and I love that.
And a good cameo from another
The
21
Seth
Jump Street.
Rogen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Richard.
Greco or
Rico, yeah.
Yes.
But the
Well, you
Seth
gotta put
Rogen
him
one
in
is the one
somewhere.
that killed me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
They replace him.
What? What's wrong?
No one will notice.
It's funny in the junket that when I interviewed Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, we talked about Lord and Miller and how they're just killing it right now. And one of the things that they said was that they have this voice, and it's a very unique voice in film, so that even though the Lego movie, for example, and this movie are two completely different films, there's still this like overarching similarity in the quirkiness, to your
meta,
point, and
yeah.
like the, you know, we're winking at the audience, and we don't underestimate the intelligence of the audience. And I
Yeah.
think for a bro movie that's like a broad comedy, this movie really respects its audience,
Yeah,
and it
they-
made me
yeah.
feel smart.
Yeah,
I
they do
was
the
like, oh.
highbrow, lowbrow humor
Yeah.
mash just
Yeah.
perfectly.
Even
Which
if
is
you
why
go-
girls enjoy it as
Yeah.
well,
Yes.
because it's a total dude film, and this is like I know I'm outsider on this, but I didn't enjoy Neighbors, and mostly because I felt like it was just this one big my ahem is bigger than your ahem, and I didn't appreciate that. I was just like, it's boring. I grew up with boys like this my whole life. This was a total dude fest, and yet was still hysterical because they treat their viewers like they're smart, and I like that.
Yeah, and if you talking about them too, even if you go back now and watch the original Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, you totally see it in there too. Like I remember that film came out, and a total surprise, and I loved that movie. And then I found they were doing like 21 Jump Street. That's kind of weird. And I said for a whole year how that movie was going to suck, and then it was like, wow, it's so amazing. A few things about this film, like I'm not going to go out and call it, one of the greatest comedies I've ever seen in my life, but it had a couple of moments. I've referenced this list every once in a while. I've got a personal list of like my top 10 funniest moments in films ever, and to me, always number one will be the scene from Spaceballs, Dark Helmet saying evil will always triumph because good is dumb. No line in any movie ever has made me laugh as hard as that. But that moment in this movie when Channing and Jonah are sitting in Ice Cube's office, and the tension about the fact that he slept with his daughter. And then you hear it just for a second, you hear the ticking, tick, tick, ding, and then Channing's reaction.
Best.
I thought I was going to be physically ill. I could hardly breathe.
When he starts like doing the Running Man, and he's like running around, it's so good.
You fist bumped him for sleeping with your daughter.
Ice Cube's face just
Ice Cube. Okay, that's one of the big positives. I'm surprised nobody's mentioned yet, is how good Ice Cube is in this movie.
Just about to say, like his outburst with Jonah Hill when he discovers initially, and he just that look at his team. But I lost my mind when he kicks over that plan. And he says, "Hello, nice plan." He goes, "Get your ass." When he did that, I lost it because it was so subtle, and he just knows. Again, everyone knows how to play what the comedy in this movie. They know the tone, and I think that's a testament to the directors and what they're doing. So
two things connected to him that wasn't even him doing it, but when he's sending the text messages to Jonah Hill and he's like, "What's up, Doug? I'm gonna kill you, Doug."
And then
you can hear his voice.
And then the emojis.
Oh yeah,
he sends like the knife
and guns.
Oh man!
But and then they're sitting in the restaurant with Jonah Hill, and they're having that family dinner, whatever. And he's like, "Can I get some damn water?" And then Jonah Hill's like, "Somebody get this man some water. He's black. He's had a very hard life."
Even when he goes into the next room and starts throwing the food, Ice Cube played it amazing, and he was good in the first one. I think all of them were way better in the second one than the first one. They definitely found their stride in their sequel.
Yeah, I actually thought that as much as I liked the whole movie of 21 Jump Street and how small of a role Ice Cube actually played, he had the line in the movie for me with Korean Jesus.
Yeah,
that was like the line of the movie for me that still sticks with me. But it was just peppered with these moments, and you're right, they perfectly put in quote unquote cameos. They use Rob Riggle, they use Franco without recycling them at the same time. Even did you guys stick for the post credit scene?
The post one.
The post.
Was there a post? No, I didn't see that one.
It's
Riggle.
So sad.
And Dave Franco laying in bed at. Actually, just for those of you who saw the movie but you didn't stick around to the post, I won't spoil it, so you can go back and see it again. Stick around till after the credits.
That good that you're not going to spoil it in the spoilers.
But Franco,
he's so great.
Franco doesn't have a line, I don't think, in it, but he kills it. He I'm just gonna leave it at that. But the direction was great. Even the action was pretty good. Like all the auxiliary characters were great. That scene between Jonah and what's the blonde's name again?
Jillian Bell.
The fight scene. We saw bits of it in the trailer.
I'm not trying to kiss you. That whole
that moment was
she does
great.
That lean in.
She's so good.
I had never seen her also
funny.
I never watched Workaholics, so you're just watching her like she should be in a lot more stuff because
I think she will be now.
I sure hope so because it's hard to get timing like that.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be her Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids.
I think so.
I hope so. Yeah.
She stole it because when it's a spoiler review, so when she turns out to be the villain, I was still like. That a little bit surprised me.
And yet it made sense.
For sure.
Right?
And then she's like the baddest ass of anyone. She's like popping caps in people.
Doesn't care at all. So nonchalant. Like everything. She's just like, yep.
And the whole
grandpa thing?
Yeah, the grandpa thing's funny. With
Jonah.
Jonah.
That stuff was good. And then none of us have mentioned my wife is a fan of ABC Family. And while I never sat down and watched a show with her, she constantly had this show on called Greek, which is what Jonah Hill's girlfriend in the movie is from. And I can't pull her name off the top of my head. I haven't seen her in anything else.
The actress who played Ice Cube's daughter?
Yes.
Okay.
But I know
Amber Stevens.
Amber Stevens, one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood. Like, dear heaven,
Yes, she
she's
is.
stunning. And the way which almost made it a little bit unbelievable, that her and Jonah Hill hooking up sort of thing. But I thought she was really good in it. I just, all the way around.
And again, the Jonah Hill scene when he's saying the poem. Oh, man.
Oh, the slam poetry.
That slam poetry was like because that's where I started to get not nervous. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, are we going to be able to? Because I think that was right when there was like a slower moment that we were building again, and I was like, okay, they're just on. They're just on.
Yep.
That's hard to pull off,
Absolutely.
too. Like, he made it, it's like figure skating. They make it look so easy. And when they make it look easy, they're doing a really good job because they make it so effortless. Like, those jokes, like the slam poetry thing, that could have just tanked a million ways from Sunday. And it's genius. I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant slam poetry. I would go see a slam poetry reading to see that. That, like, made me want to go.
All right.
I never wanted that in my
So,
life.
and I'll just finally say, I did like Neighbors a lot. And
Yeah.
I thought, I don't think we're going to see a funnier film this year than Neighbors, and that's okay, because this is really funny. And, yeah, the 22 leaves it in the dust, quite
And
frankly.
when's the last time we saw a sequel of a comedy that was this good? Like, I can't even remember the last
It
sequel of a
reminds me of
comedy.
the David Zucker stuff, like Airplane
Yeah,
and,
well,
and the sequels that
We
came
talked
out
about it.
that
Yeah.
were
Austin Powers 2, we kind of
Austin
thought was
Powers
okay.
2.
Yeah,
Naked
actually,
Gun 2.5, I guess
which
you
is
could
how
say.
I read it.
In the
Yeah.
junket, Jonah Hill said that he liked Austin Powers 2 because he thought Mini-Me was so funny.
Right.
So
What was the one with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker?
Rush Hour 2.
Rush Hour
Yeah,
2, I
that
thought
one
was
was
better
good.
than the, but
Yeah.
it's rare.
It's
Beverly
Very
Hills
rare.
Cop 2 is
So,
kind of funny.
which
but
one?
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah, Beverly
Yeah,
Hills
but that's
too.
now we're going. But we're just
Yeah,
because the
you're-
point of how
That's like
far back
30
you
years
gotta
ago,
go,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know that I was alive then.
You probably
But I
weren't.
think I might have seen it.
But how many big sequels have we had though?
It's a
like
long
this,
time.
like that have had the success like 21 Jump Street had. I mean, we just like Hangover, I guess is the last example. But there really haven't been ones that it impacted the way 21 Jump Street did because
Right.
the reason why you didn't know everyone, and again they played it up in that first movie. Everyone thought, what are they doing with this film? Why?
Yeah.
And then when you see what they're doing, the reason people went back to see it and are going to see it again is because not only do they embrace it, it's the fact that these two guys they're like a team that you're going to remember for a very long time as a great comedy duo.
And you want to bring all your friends. Like, we saw it obviously
Yes.
at a press screening, and it's like, now I want to bring every single
Right.
one of my friends because I want them for their stomachs to hurt as bad as mine
and
did.
You
Yeah.
can quote lines
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah.
it'd
It's
be
a
fun.
bonding moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to do the now. Let's talk about the things that maybe they could have done better with this film, and I'll start off with it. The story isn't strong. It's not as strong. This is a movie that is nothing but we're gonna set up very flimsy containers to just drop the humor and the comedy in and stuff like that. I mean, the girl being end up being the bad guy. I mean, narrative-wise, that's really ridiculous. And the way that she's bossing around her crime lord dad, and that's pretty ridiculous. And how it's all pretty ridiculous, I guess. So not a strong narrative to the film. So that's everything I got as far as negatives
I maybe
go.
would have liked a stronger villain in the dad.
Yeah, could have used a
acting-wise,
good villain.
great actor, and his team seemed a little bumbling, and so I thought they
Yeah.
could have maybe played off of those guys. You could have put somebody like what Rob Riggle did in the first one.
Yes.
A guy with because it was fun to have, and again that actor has been in so many Fargo and
Peter
everything.
Stormare.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
I
so
wanted more of him.
Yeah.
I actually
Yeah.
love him. And I would have
I
liked
love him
to
as an
see
actor.
them
Yeah,
do
but I
some
would have
more.
liked to seen a real big, strong comedy presence in that role with some
Right.
more because they used those guys as his henchmen. They used them as jokes, and Jonah Hill would make some cracks at them, and that was funny. But I would have liked to seen them become a presence as well, just adding the humor. The other thing is, as I said in the beginning, there are moments to where you're holding your belly laughing, like when they do the drug sequence again, very funny.
Oh yeah.
But there are some points where it slows for a little bit, and as you're dragging just a little bit, you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And during those points, I don't know if they maybe could have sprinkled in just a little more, but nitpicking at this point.
Yeah.
But still,
Yeah, I feel the same way. There were two parts. It was one right before the slam poetry, and then there was one towards the end that were, I mean, minutely slow. When I say slow, I
Right.
mean it was good because you could catch your breath between laughs. And I like go to think of what I didn't want. The only scene I could think of that I could have like not had was the octopus scene because that just one little piece. The beginning of it and the end of it I loved, but the octopus thing I just didn't understand why there was an
Yeah, it was a
octopus
little
and
silly.
the drug thing. But everything else, it's like
I didn't care.
you're nitpicking, right?
Right,
But
yeah.
that's what I'm doing. It's like
Yeah.
you're nitpicking
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you laughed so hard that who cares if it's not the best story in the world?
Yeah.
It was freaking funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the therapy scene I thought was funny, but maybe just went on for a little too long.
Yeah.
Maybe it
Yeah.
was a little heavy-handed on the homoerotic
Yeah,
jokes. So
yeah.
just kept on going. It's
No,
like,
you know,
"Oh,
you
we
know what?
get it,
You're
we
right.
get
That
it,
is
we get it."
probably the one scene. While the concept of the scene was initially really funny, you
Yeah.
realize, okay, yeah, no, we get
We
it. You're
get
right.
it.
Yeah, we get it.
We got the joke. Let's move on.
Wow, we're talking
But
about
again,
1 30-second scene.
That's what I mean.
Can I actually say
Again,
something
it's a great
I like
sequel.
that I forgot to mention
Sure.
in the part of the review where we're supposed to talk what we don't like? The physical stunts were really formidable. They
Oh,
did
yeah.
some crazy stuff, and we forget because it's a comedy and we're laughing. But I'm just thinking of like the Lambo scene, the chase scene, the scene in the beginning when Jonah's hanging off, the Schmidt's hanging off the truck, and they did
The
a lot of that stuff
helicopter.
themselves.
Yeah.
Helicopter
And
scene.
those are some hard stunts. So like I know that's not a
That
negative. That's actually
fantasy-
a positive.
Yeah.
That fantasy scene too, where Jonah Hill's in like
Yes.
the dark hell kind of
So
thing,
fun.
and
The trip.
Channing's on the
God,
other
drug
side.
trip.
And it pulls him into it.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Why are you
And-
pulling me down? I'm flying right now. Yeah.
But I think the other negative would be like you guys said, but we did this a lot in the first movie, to where it was, hey, but you and I were on the same team or we're not, and that was overall the point of it. I get it that it's the same movie, but there's some of it with Jonah Hill saying, hey, Channing, you're my friend. Aren't you supposed to be on the same page and all that kind of stuff? After
They
a
dragged
while,
that out
it
a while.
dragged just
Yeah.
a tad. Yeah.
All right, so there's our positives, there's our negatives. It's judgment time. Miri, we're going to start with you. Your score, so just a brief overall impression and your score out of 10.
Brief overall impression is I'm madly impressed by the movie. I think more than just laughing my everything off, I think I walked out of there being like, wow, they really pulled that off. And that's almost as enjoyable as just sitting there and laughing for an hour and a half. I thought that the characters have grown since the first one, and it was really fun to watch them together. I feel like this is definitely going to be like the must-see comedy of the summer, if not the year,
Yeah.
because it's so far been, for sure, the funniest film I've seen. And it's one of those sequels that you could watch without having seen the first one, and it's still
Yes.
enjoyable. And I think that's rare, especially since they're referring to a relationship that was set up in another film. I still think you would walk in and laughs per minute. You're still enjoying yourself. So I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10.
Christian?
Comedies in general are hard to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Comedies are the most. You talk about subjective, So comedy sequels are near impossible, as Krisily brought up before, and they nailed it. So this is a movie that, because of the chemistry between the two lead actors and the rhythm and the pacing and respecting the audience, it is a must-see comedy for sure of the year. Channing Tatum is someone who should absolutely be respected for his body of work now when he pulls off something like this. I'm going to push with Miri and go 8.5 out of 10. Overall, it's just a movie that people should see and enjoy yourself and hold your side and make sure you don't spit on anybody.
Yeah. Don't be drinking anything when you walk in because it's really fast and a little too furious. It's still one of my favorite lines every time I think of it. My stomach hurt. So not only are you going to go in and you're going to laugh, but you're going to get a workout for your stomach, which is key to us women. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yep.
But hysterical, the relationships, the characters, I think that all of them, Ice Cube, Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill, were so much better in this one than they were the first one. It's so rare that we see a sequel that's this great. I want to bring everyone I know to go see it, and I give it a 9.
Yeah.
Alicia?
Well, it's a sequel that's definitely worthy of its predecessor. If you loved 21 Jump Street, you will absolutely love 22 Jump Street. It's got everything you loved in the first and more. I'm only going to take 1 point off for the reason I mentioned, so I'm going with 9 out of 10.
I'm talking missionary. I'm talking missionary.
Talking the one where
I'm on top and she's on the bottom.
she's
So good.
Just look, when we talk about, I say this a lot of times, sometimes you need to remove a lot of the rhetoric out of it and just look at it. What type of an experience did the film give me? Whether it's heavy drama, historical thing, does it move you to tears? Does it move you to feel passion? Does it move you to feel anger? Does it give you an experience? And it's been a while. I honestly, I can't. It's been a while since I've gone to the theater and just had that kind of pure entertainment experience. I was just thoroughly engrossed the entire time I was there, laughing every second, and walking out with a big grin on my face.
And quoting it instantly.
Yes.
Instantly quoting the movie.
And it's a very quotable movie, and I think it's going to be quotable for a long time. I think there were about 4 or 5 Korean Jesus moments in this film.
Vietnamese Jesus.
Yeah, Vietnamese Jesus
This
now,
time.
moving forward. So, I mean, I just, could it have been more like a 40-Year-Old Virgin where you also build a really great narrative, make it very character-centric? Sure, but that's amongst, like, me personally, amongst my, like, all-time greatest comedies. If another comedy comes out this year that tops 22 Jump Street, this will be one of the best years for comedy ever, because I would be thoroughly impressed. I'm also going to go 9. I mean, this is a great, fun, entertaining movie. Go see it again. I know I'm going to see it at least 3 or 4 more times in theater. All right, so we've got 8.5, 8.5, and I believe 999.
Over there, yeah.
So, hey, Dennis over there. Dennis is switching this thing. You saw it. You were at the world premiere, actually.
LA premiere.
LA premiere. Out of 10, what would you give?
I give it a 9.
And Dennis gives it a 9. So it's a pure. Actually, no, 9's not
It's
way
a
the
love
thing.
fest.
That's
I feel like
right.
we
It's
should just
a.
hold the cards up like it's figure skating.
So anyway,
Success.
that will do it for us, guys. Listen, don't forget, if for some reason you're one of those people you don't care about spoilers, so you watch this review anyway, or if you want to go see 22 Jump Street again, head on over to www.amctheaters.com and get your tickets, theater, and your showtime information there, and you can get them right now. I want to thank the people joining me on this panel today. First of all, Miss Alicia Malone. Alicia, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Alicia Malone.
And, of course, right beside her, Miss Krisily Kennedy. Krisily, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Krisily and possibly at 22 Jump Street now.
And Mr. Christian Harloff. Christian, where can people find you?
Right here on YouTube, just look for Schmoes No.
And, of course, Miri Jetikin.
Miri the Jedi, Twitter, Instagram. That's where you find
You
me.
do have the coolest Twitter handle.
Well,
anywhere.
it's my name.
And you guys can just find me on the various social media channels, just at John Campia. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. For AMC Spoilers, my name's John Campia, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.